Hello, and welcome back to House Gustav. My name is Kennedy. While I provide you with this lovely video of me throwing a small cup on the wheel, I thought I would sit back, relax, and chat with you. So, this is really just going to be me yapping about whatever I feel like yapping about for the duration of the video. One thing that I did want to talk about is a show that I really like. You have likely seen it. I'm really into The Bear with, I think his name is Jeremy Allen White. Just a really great cast of actors. What I love about the show is how realistic the arguments feel to me. Like, I noticed that when I would watch it, like, after a scene was over in which the characters were really arguing and, just like really getting into it, once the scene was over, my body would like I would exhale. Like, the fact that once a scene would cut, I would be like, anyway, it's definitely not a show to just put on when you want to relax, but it is highly captivating. I definitely recommend it. I also really, really enjoyed Jamie Lee Curtis's acting. My goodness. The episode when Natalie was giving birth, she really captured the fullness of a mom with a lot of issues, but she's with her daughter as she's going into labor. You really just felt all of her emotions, and you felt it was just so believable. Like, she described the music that she was listening to when she was giving birth and a dream that she had, and the cadence of her voice and her facial expressions. You just really felt and believed all of it. It was really, really cool watching her as Donna Berzotto. Really a big fan of The Bear. I really enjoyed seeing the complexity of emotions that Carmi went through, striving to be the best chef that he could be, in part because of his brother, in part in spite of his brother. It was really interesting seeing the mental toll that excelling in that industry took on him. He felt immense stress. Stress isn't even the word. He felt immense. He was traumatized. He was traumatized by the restaurant industry. Not all of it. We see flashbacks of him having really positive mentors, but a lot of what haunts Carmi is this one specific chef that he worked under who just constantly berated him, told him he was stupid. Carmi mentions it later on in the series that he developed ulcers, and we see throughout the series he had nightmares and things like that. Deeply unsettling experience for him, but he still kept at it and he still kept improving despite all of that. It was a really interesting show, and I think that what was done well was that nothing was overly simplified. The characters grew, the characters had depth to them. They all had things that were likable, and they all had things that were unlikable. Aside from that chef that Carmen worked under, there really wasn't one person that you couldn't find something to like. Anyway, that's my official review of The Bear. I really enjoyed it. I hope that they come out with a season 4. I think they are. Hopefully they do. I really, really liked it. Not something that's going to help you de-stress after work, but it really just, I felt so immersed in their world. What else would I like to talk about? After the video that I made where I talked about how I'm looking for new books to read, I did go to my local library, which is somewhere that I hadn't been in years. And so maybe I'll talk to you a little bit about what it was like going back to my hometown library. I still live adjacent to my hometown, and I loved reading growing up. My mom would read bedtime stories to me. I fell in love with reading very early. I don't know, like, in my mind, I feel like I stopped reading maybe in like the fourth grade. Not like just stopped reading altogether, but like, I feel like I didn't read for pleasure very much in like fourth and fifth grade, but maybe I'm misremembering. But I feel like in sixth grade, my desire for books was kind of reignited because I think that's when I started reading YA specifically. That feels more accurate. I don't think I stopped reading. I think I just aged and learned that I liked older books. Like, maybe like entering sixth grade. There was a girl I knew who lent me her copy of Flipped by, it's crazy because this book was my favorite book for years, but I don't know how to pronounce the author's last name. Wendelin Van Dronen. That's my best guess. That's what I've always said. But I don't actually know if that's the correct pronunciation. But her book Flipped was my favorite book throughout middle school. I loved it. I still love it. I still think that the characters are really wonderful, and I think that the story is still really impactful. And I think that there's still lessons to be learned from it. I think even if I read it now, I haven't read it in its entirety in a long time, but I think even if I read it now, I would still be on the edge of my seat to know how it ended. I'm trying to think though. I feel like there was something that we read in the sixth grade that made me remember that I really liked reading books. I think it was Number the Stars by Lois Lowry. I'm getting way off topic. Not way off, but I'm getting off topic. Let me just say this. Lois Lowry's a goat, okay? Lois Lowry is the goat. I read Number the Stars with my class in the sixth grade, and I didn't read it for years. Present day, I am an English teacher. And last school year, I taught fifth grade for the first time. Number the Stars was part of their curriculum. And my goodness, I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I loved it. I remember before we started reading it that I had read it in the sixth grade, but I didn't remember a whole lot about it other than I really liked the book. But as an adult, I see so much more value in it than I did as a child. The author's afterword really struck a chord with me because even though all of the characters are fictional, the events that took place were real. Obviously, the Holocaust was real, but I mean, like, the way that they avoided the Nazi soldiers when they were trying to hide Jews in boats and get them across the sea and whatnot, all of that was real. Like, the tactics were real. Let me just say, though, learning about the way that the people of Denmark were able to help their Jewish friends and neighbors escape was just so remarkable. I had never, outside of that book, I had never learned about ways that Jewish people were able to escape Nazi occupied Europe. And when I looked it up last school year, I learned that Denmark had one of the highest survival rates of Jewish people because of all the efforts that their community members took to hide them in their homes or help them escape to nearby countries that weren't as affected by the Holocaust. And so it was just such a moving story. Lois Lowry wrote one of my other favorite books, The Giver, which I also read in school, hadn't read it in years, and then read it with a different grade level a couple years ago. I read it with my seventh graders a couple years ago. Also a phenomenal book, which is why I say Lois Lowry is the GOAT. Anyways, though, I mentioned I think that was my last video, I mentioned how I've been looking for books to read, and so I went to the library. It's not a new library, like it's been open over a decade, I would say. It's still very, very clean and new looking, and it smells exactly the same as it did when I was a kid. Shout out to my mom. Shout out to my mom for bringing me to the library. I love the library, man. But I went, as an adult a few weeks ago. I was in there for a while. I really just enjoyed wandering through the books. I checked out 3 books. I'm still, I guess, trying to figure out what my reading niche is right now. I'm not super into books that take place in high school. It's not as relatable to me as it was when I was in high school. And then I feel that what comes after YA for women is romance. Because a lot of YA is romance. Not all of it, but a lot of it is romance. Or at least has romantic elements to it. Like, if you look at the most popular YA novels, I would venture to say that 9 times out of 10, if not more, they're either about romance or they contain some kind of romantic plot. So I feel like the next thing is romance. Like, if you look at the market of books that are available, I think that what comes after YA is romance. Like, once you age out of YA, do you just start reading romance novels? I'm not opposed to that. I like a romantic story. Like, I'll never tell you that I'm not like other girls. I'm exactly like other girls. But, like, does it have to be that specific of a genre? I like a romantic storyline, but I don't want that to be the only genre of books that I read. My cat's trying to get in, but he was very rude to me this evening, so I'm not gonna let him in. Like, I like romance, don't get me wrong. I like romance, but I don't think I want that to be such a narrow genre of things that I listen to. I love a good friendship story. In fact, I think that my favorite stories, they contain romance, but they also contain strong elements of friendship. I love when there's a group of friends and they all have their own issues. They have developed backstories. They come from different backgrounds, but they like band together and save the world or something. I love that. I live for that. If you don't know, I love Avatar: The Last Airbender. And yes, there's romance in it, but I love a group of friends who just figure things out together and they use each other's strengths and lift each other up in their weaknesses and make stuff happen together. I love a strong team. That's a good story. Avatar: The Last Airbender is a good story. And so I say all that to say, I don't want a narrow genre of fiction. I want romance, but I also want I just want age appropriate books for me, okay? Like I said previously, it's like I feel that there's such a gap. You either have books that take place when you're 18 or under, like they take place in high school, and then you have romance, which is like, and don't even get me started on the whole romance section of the bookstore, because I feel like it's just all the same thing over and over and over again. And my sister can attest to this too, because she reads more romance novels than I do. Since I've kind of been trying to figure out what kind of fiction that I like, I've been reading or listening to nonfiction, specifically things that are like self improvement. Like I listened to Atomic Habits, I listened to Million Dollar Weekend, or just other nonfiction. Like I listened to Jeanette McCurdy's I'm Glad My Mom Died. I really, really like Dr. Anna Lemke's book, Dopamine Nation. Yeah, so like I've been reading or listening to a lot of nonfiction, but I miss fiction. And so I went to the library and I picked up 3 fiction novels. I finished one of them. The other 2 are in progress. My husband and I are listening to a book series, and it is fiction, and it's not YA. I don't know if I'm ready to talk about it though. I don't think I'm ready to talk about it. Well, okay, I'll talk about it a little bit. We're listening to a fantasy series. Now, maybe that's where I'm meant to go, but let me know if you agree, if you feel like there's a gap where it's like high school and then it's like just romance, or it's like literary fiction, which even though I have a degree in English, I don't think I get it. I don't think I get literary fiction. I'm just going to say that. I don't think I understand it. I feel like literary fiction, and maybe there's some of it that I understand. I don't know if you would consider some of the great American novels literary fiction, but when I think of literary fiction, I think of the most boring story you've ever read, whatever that is. Something that just does not have a conclusive ending. You don't really know anything about the main character. Even when I've tried to look up the definition of literary fiction, it's so vague and weird. Try to look up the definition for literary fiction, and if you know a better way to explain it to me, I would be most grateful. But anyways, maybe I'm meant to listen to fantasy or read fantasy now, because I feel like fantasy will often include more mature content. And I don't mean like always just like explicit, but like literally just older characters, right? I feel like fantasy will include more mature topics, which appeals to me more than like something that takes place in high school. So, yeah, I enjoyed my trip to the library. It was very nostalgic, and I love books, and I want to read lots more books. Maybe I'm into fantasy now. Listening to a fantasy series with my husband has made me want to write more again. And I'm really down for anything that makes me want to write. I've always loved writing, and I feel like I'm reading the right things if reading makes me want to write. I hope that you enjoyed my official review of The Bear and my discussion about libraries, and I hope that you enjoyed me ranting about not knowing what kinds of books that I like as an adult. But if you have fiction recommendations for someone in their late 20s, please again let me know. I appreciate you for watching and listening, and I hope that you feel loved, and I hope that you're looking forward to tomorrow, and I hope that you have a good rest of your day. Bye!